on BRI today. We're looking at the events which happened on the Ross Revenge yesterday afternoon. People just tuning in. This is BRI on an unscheduled program. Coming towards an unscheduled broadcast. I'm going to hand over to wonderful Free Radio London on 6275 today, who's going to be giving you all the information you need to know. We felt we just had to come on the air today for at least an hour, just let you know what's been going on, just in case you weren't filled in with the situation on the Ross Revenge. Just a quick recap. Officials from the UK and Dutch coast, of course, boarded the Ross Revenge around about 12:30 yesterday afternoon. And the latest we know is that the ship may be being towed into Rotterdam Harbour. Has not been confirmed yet, and we're looking for more concrete information on that. We said on the air that the Ross Revenge was going to be at its anchorage, just been transmitted, and all them taken away. Well, all the but could it still be used without us knowing? And how the warning has been sent.
1604 to France, Germany, Holland, Ireland. It is written by the
Tuning in for the Radio North Sea story part 3. Well, I'm sorry, but it's been cancelled once again, and we apologise, but it will be going out next month on the 4th Sunday, and the reasons for this, we've got an extended programme coming up at 11 o'clock today concerning Radio Caroline's event, and some recordings of their final 15 minutes, plus all the news or some of the news bulletin which went out on television this week. Okay, you're listening to BRI this morning on 6230 kilohertz. Well, we're still looking for reception reports if you're thinking of writing to us with a reception report, but please pop in your top 10 favourite records of all time, okay? Just write them on a piece of paper. Don't have to be in any particular order, just how you think, that they should be, your favourite songs. Just write them on a piece of paper along with your reception report, and we'll feature them on top tracks in the future. The addresses are 32 Victoria Road, Salisbury, Wiltshire, for ANG in England, or PO Box 190743501 DB Utrecht in the Netherlands. Also for the top tracks program, we're looking for DJs from the past. Now, if you're a DJ from the past on Shortwave, used to be on the air years ago, or just an odd year or two ago, don't have to be that long ago. Give us a line and tell us who you are, and we'll get you on top tracks doing your personal top 10s, okay? So, any budding pirate DJs who've gone into retirement and feel like coming back on to do a program, we're inviting you to write to us at our mailing addresses and include your top 10 best records of all time, and we'll let you do the program here on BRI on the second Sundays, okay? Drop a line to us first, to our mailing addresses. Any DJs out there who used to be on shortwave on a station and would like to do a little program back on the good old shortwave. Also, I'd just like to remind you today that I've had a letter from Peter Verbrugge from FRS Holland. Thanks, Peter, for writing to us, getting back to you soon. And he's just told us to let everybody know that they have a new address now. So if you'd like to write to anybody at FRS Holland, the address now is FRSH, PO Box 2727 6049 ZG Herten in the Netherlands. Okay, the new address of FRS Holland is PO Box 2727 6049 ZG Herten in the Netherlands, and drop them a line because they are a good station. Nice to hear you back soon, Peter, hopefully. 25 past 10, coming up in 5 minutes, a recording of a BBC television news report which went out earlier this week concerning Atlantic 252. That's coming up soon. Meanwhile, here's Paul McCartney to sing for us now with his song in the chart called This One. Okay, it's just coming up to 10:30 in the morning. If you're just tuning in wondering what the devil's going on, Roger Davis on this early? Well, there's a reason for it, which you'll be finding out in the course of today's broadcast. Yeah, just looking over my shoulder there, Jane. In here very early as well. What's up? What's the meaning of this, Jane?
Oh, I thought I'd make a big start.
Yeah. Well, she didn't get a lot of rest because there's a lot happening here at BRI, getting the news together for you people out there concerning Caroline. So you're busy getting your show ready?
Yes, I am.
Is anything good in there this week?
The record, and that's the new one.
The new one? Ah, yeah, because she does the past and present program now, looking at the songs which are going up the charts. Also, matching them up with songs which were doing the same thing years ago. Are you going to let us into a secret what years you're featuring? No?
Hello. What's
No.
that tune?
Okay. Right, just harassing her because she's looking very busy, and that's very unusual for her. Okay, about 30 seconds from now, we'll be playing a recording of Atlantic 252's news feature, which went out on BBC television about 3 or 4 days ago.
Music, news, information on your favorite station.
Okay, as we know, the radio station is testing in Ireland at the moment. The local program well about the beginning of September, which is only about a week away. So we've got a recording now how the BBC breakfast team covered these stories. I think it was on Wednesday. Just for a couple of minutes.
£10 to launch and hopes for an audience of 1,000 listeners. But Britain says the new station is breaking international regulations. It led to formal complaints with the Dublin government. Our media correspondent...
The ruins beside the River Boyne, Castle in Ireland, and the Duke of Wellington may have been born here. The rest of Dublin has nothing to distinguish it from dozens of quiet country towns throughout Ireland.
This is Atlantic 252. You can call us now from anywhere in the UK. 0898.
But that was before Atlantic 252 arrived. In American-style pop radio stations, and it starts broadcasting to most of the UK and Ireland next month.
Good morning, I'm Tony West. This is Atlantic 252. Some of the lunchtime menu today.
Atlantic newly converted studios on the outskirts of town. DJs from England, Ireland and America are assisting at the launch. Listeners are promised more pop and less prattle, with never more than 90 seconds between records. One day, says the American behind Atlantic's programs, a former boss of North Sea pirate station Radio Laser, all British radio could be like this.
There are 10,000 radio stations in the United States, and it's possible to hear just about anything you want to hear. And you don't really need a schedule of times to figure out when you can find a certain kind of programming. There's a spot on the dial, and almost any time you turn to that spot, you'll find that kind of programming.
Atlantic is jointly owned by Radio Luxembourg and RTE, Ireland's equivalent of the BBC. RTE built the mast for the powerful long-wave transmitter. It towers 840 feet above the fields of County Meath. And now it's finished, the transmission reaches as far as London.
But Atlantic 252, or Radio Tara, which was its original name, has run into opposition on both sides of the Irish Sea. Some Irish nationalists say an Irish radio station should be broadcasting to Ireland. Local environmentalists object to the massive transmitter mast. And some people in and around Trim have found the signals are so strong they can even pick the station up on their telephone.
And objected to us last week, signed your names, and it's just got complete disregard for our feelings. They don't care, RTE don't care.
Meanwhile, Britain's commercial radio industry is crying foul because international regulations say a country should only use the frequencies it's been allocated to broadcast to its own territory.
The British government has laid down their plans for the establishment of 3 national commercial networks, which the radio authority will be responsible for introducing. And of course, exercises like the one that's going on in Ireland will have a significant effect on the ability for these new services to get going.
But Atlantic's station manager says it needs all its transmitter power to cover the island of Ireland, and it's simply commercially exploiting the resulting overspill audience in Britain.
Is this a radio station aimed principally at the United Kingdom? It's an international station. We expect to get a lot of listeners, and we hope to get revenue from the market of the United Kingdom. We also expect to get revenue and listeners from the Irish Republic, and our target is that. Would it be profitable to run a station like this if you weren't broadcasting to the UK? I would say that it would be a knife-edge operation.
But pop fans nowadays mostly tune to FM radio stations, not old-fashioned long-wave. And it could be a tough job persuading them to change. The signals will be powerful, all right, but there may be no one listening.
Yes, they could have a point. Yes, well, how are they going to market long wave? We'll have to wait and see. But that actual feature went on Television's breakfast program on Wednesday concerning World 252. We thought you might like to hear that today. Okay, talking of recordings, we have a lot of those coming up. At 11 o'clock, we'll be interrupting the Roger Davis show to spend 30 minutes featuring update on the Caroline situation, and also playing 15 minutes of the last bit which we heard on Caroline last Saturday afternoon before they were closed down by the DTI. So if you want to hear that recording, stay tuned this morning at 11 o'clock. We'll be doing that. And also following that, we'll be playing some of the news reviews which went out concerning Radio Caroline on the British television this week. And that goes through till 11:30. Then we'll be back with the normal programming. Right now, getting back to the music, August the 27th this very week, 1970. What was he doing? This record was standing at number 10. And if you're into oldies, don't forget BRI's Solid Girls Second Sunday. Every second Sunday at the month we play non-stop oldies between 10 and 2. With all the stuff you need to hear in the oldies between 60s and the early 80s. And some good music played there every second Sunday. Okay, in about 5 minutes' time, looking at the horoscope character readings for Virgo people.
Hi, this is Bob Gellico, and I'm standing here with my arm twisted up behind my back. So I'm really glad to tell you about what you can get from Anorax UK. Everything to do with free radio. Books, magazines, records, posters, photos, stickers, shirts, videos, aerials, and tapes. And the catalog is free. And even this makes fascinating reading. No SAE required. Just name and address to Anorax UK. P.O. Box 539, Blackpool, England.
Every second Sunday of the month, we present a program called Top Tracks. We would like you, the listener, to help us with this show by sending a list of your top 10 favorite songs, along with some details about the reasons you picked those songs. Was it a special time for you when these were in the charts? If so, we would like to know. To make Top Tracks your program, send your top 10 list, including 3 alternative songs, to BRI Top Tracks. Salisbury, Wiltshire, SP1 3NG in England, or P.O. Box 190743501 DB, Utrecht in the Netherlands. There's also a possibility that you could actually present the show yourself, but please write first. Quality recording facilities for this. Please help us make Top Tracks your tracks every second Sunday on BRI. And don't forget, we're looking for you pirate DJs from the past. If you were on Shortwave a few years ago, or just a couple of years ago, or a year ago, drop us a line here at BRI, and you can present your top 10 favourite songs on Top Tracks on the second Sunday. So why not do that today? Just like to remind you before we get back to the music, of the brand new address of Offshore Echoes magazine. We'd like to tell you that please write to this address now and not the other address. It's P.O. Box 1514, London W7 2LL in the UK. Okay, that address of Offshore Echoes magazine now. Here, the new address is P.O. Box 1514, London W7 2LL, United Kingdom. Okay, BRI 6230, and as we said, the horoscope character readings for Virgo. After this song now, from the Lightning Seed, and this is called Her. Good morning, it's BRI. Sunday shortwave radio for you. As we said, we'll be breaking from the music and sort of going over to about 30 minutes from the past 7 days concerning Radio Caroline. Now, if you're listening to the weekend, we came on the air for an unscheduled broadcast around about 8:30 in the morning. We played this recording of Radio Caroline of their 15 minutes before DTI took the ship off the air, and we put that out last week. Misunderstanding with Radio Jolly Roger. Well, we get on very well, actually. We're good friends, me and Joe Benson, of course. But we communicated with the use of 6230 last weekend. But unfortunately, due to a line which was not too good on the telephone that day, sort of got misunderstood the actual time of the use of 6230 kilohertz. So in the end, I think both of us were broadcasting more or less the same time. Although the crystal he was using was supposed to have been 6225 kilohertz, but I have reason to believe that that was a bit closer to 30 than 225. We had a little bit of QRM problems last weekend on scheduled broadcast. But anyway, it was all above board, and yes, we have had a few words there with Joy and Roger Radio, and we realised the mistake now. And if you heard a whistle on our signal. So this weekend we decided to donate 30 minutes at 11 o'clock this morning for a look at Radio Caroline's sort of problems, and we're playing that recording for you then. Also some TV news bulletins which went out here in the UK, and which might be quite beneficial to the people over there on the continent who may not have got too much news coverage in their particular area. So do stay tuned. Just after 11 o'clock today we'll be doing that for you. Also Steve West at 12 o'clock, he'll be having an extended offshore section and covering the very latest news on Caroline, and he's got some good stuff in there. So basically today's broadcast is completely more or less dominated by Radio Caroline, but we don't mind because we think she deserves it. Okay, enough waffling from me. And Jane's gone out of the studio now, and she's probably been kicking me in the back if she'd have been here now. Right, another record from our chart from 1970 now. This record was standing at number 7 all those years ago. It's very weak. And a band called Chicago. Now, one of my favourite bands. International 6230 kilohertz. Our mailing addresses are Road, Barnsley, 1-3NG in England. PO Box 190743501 BBC. Blasting the music now for 30 minutes, and we'll be doing some recordings for you, courtesy of BRI Radio International. You're listening to the summer sound of BRI Radio International. Broadcasting to Europe. Shortwave. Frequency is 6.230 megahertz, 48.17 meters. Okay, it's just after 11 o'clock in the morning here on BRI Radio International on our 4th Sunday schedules. We interrupt the normal one day of the show now for the next 30 minutes to bring you a Radio Caroline update. Okay, it's been a week now passed by since Radio Caroline was boarded by the Dutch and British authorities. Around 12:30 in the afternoon, the first attempt to get on board. If people out there were unlucky to miss the actual recording or hear it actually going out on the air last Saturday, we at BRI have about 20 minutes of the final bit of Radio Caroline before the plugs were pulled on them. And we're going to be putting out 15 minutes now, in just a moment, of Radio Caroline before they went off the air. And we actually put this out last weekend on a special unscheduled broadcast. Into us asking for the recording we have here. So we'll be putting it out on the air in just a moment. The last 15 minutes of Radio Caroline. Also followed by some British television here in England this week, and some interesting information there. So that's also coming up in the next half an hour. Do stay tuned. Some very interesting recordings coming up. So the latest we have, actually the radio file will be covering the Radio Caroline's latest news in more depth, but the very brief latest we have on Radio Caroline is that this week on Tuesday, Radio Caroline started legal action against the DTI officials, Dutch and British. Legal action for criminal damage and piracy for boarding the ship, which was in international waters. It was also reported that a British DTI official was on board. He actually was representing the DTI, and it was their solicitor, Mr. Murphy, was the name, who was also reported to be on board with the raiding party. So the latest on Caroline is that legal action started this week on the 22nd of August, and we await further information. Maybe have some more information with Steve West. Do stay tuned to this frequency today. You'll be hearing all the news that we know concerning Radio Caroline's boarding last weekend. Okay, it's Britain Radio International, and now for the next 15 minutes, it's your chance once again to hear this final 15 minutes of Radio Caroline before the DTI officials put the station off the air. The recording is average, so we apologise for a little bit of background noise, but there we go. At that particular time on Caroline. So here we go, that recording from the 19th of August, last weekend, that fateful day that the raiding party took Radio Caroline off the air.
Representatives of the just boarded the Ross Revenge. At the moment, one of the people that's come aboard has been violent engineer. We haven't a clue what's going on at the moment.
All we can say is these guys are definitely not here to take photographs.
No, and we have the DTI standing by at the rear of the ship. They are not, at this stage, appearing to do anything. We're they are going to allow this some violence, and it's on behalf of the these people a message from us. To the people in Caroline, all you need is love. This is the radio ship Lost Revenge. We appear to be in quite a dangerous predicament at the moment. At the moment, we have beside us, it's a Dutch vessel. The Volans, I believe. The Volans. The Volans. And it is endangering everybody on board. This is the Coast Guard. So anybody listening, would they please stop now calling the Coast Guard? Okay, so once again, anybody who's listening, please stop calling Dover Coast Guard. Dover Coast Guard apparently now aware of the situation. News we have on board the Ross Revenge is apparently, whether we can believe it or not, but according to our sources, this particular vessel, this Dutch vessel, this hostile Dutch vessel, is acting on behalf of the British government. Please call your local MP, councillors, local radio stations, and local news stations. Anybody, please help. Engineer Gates, we've got a fine crew here. Radio Caroline, the radio ship Ross Revenge, anchored in the international waters of the North. This is Panamanian vessel being boarded illegally on behalf of the Dutch and British. The Dutch tug alongside and they are already on board the ship. They have already used violence against certain crew members here on board the Ross Revenge. If you can help us, please call your local radio stations, local media, anything. Anyone you think can help us, call please now before Caroline goes. Radio Caroline, we love you too much to leave you forever. Please keep tuned over the weeks and months to come to our frequencies, and I feel sure that you will hear something in the not too distant future. news update for you. Here's Dave Richards.
Yes, the situation is that representatives from the Dutch government and Coast Guard are on board. Their intention is, in fact, to take various broadcast equipment. We're not sure whether that includes AC generator supply, but surely it does include our shortwave frequency, the 819 frequency, and 558 frequency. Also our studio equipment. What they intend us as people no harm. The basic problem is that they basically just want this ship off the air. They're leaving the ship and they're leaving the people on board it.
We have the option to go ashore apparently if we want to. Right. Yeah, what's happening? Route 1 road tunnel.
Right. As it stands, the gentlemen are going to remove the transmitter from the ship and take a few other things as well. What they have just told us is that we are free to go back to Holland with them, where there will be no more charges pressed. We will also be able to go back to England, and there will be no charges pressed there. Alternatively, we can stay on the Ross Revenge. Now, would you like to say anything, sir?
At that point, of course, the transmitter was switched off by the officials, by the Dutch and the British DTI. Okay, well, as we all know, a sad day, very sad day, shocked day as well for many people out there on Radio Land, especially myself. We heard about the possible boarding or possible raid on the Friday, but when a ship, a DTI ship, actually gets out there and sits on the nose of Radio Caroline, the Ross Revenge, something obviously was going to happen. But obviously the people on board the Ross Revenge didn't quite expect something quite extreme as what did happen last Saturday afternoon. Okay, you're listening to BRI Radio. Transmission before they were turned off and the whole ship was stripped out of its broadcast and studio gear. Also, the record library was taken, which I was most surprised to hear about. The records were taken. So, well, what else can we say? That it was an absolute fiasco. Right, so coming up in a moment, concerning on this special bulletin concerning Radio Caroline, we've got some recordings. You can actually hear what was being said by the journalists during this week's events on the TV. BRI Radio International 6230, in case you're wondering what you're listening to, covering through to about 11:30, a look at Radio Caroline. Also, at 12 o'clock, don't forget the Radio File with Steve West. He's apparently got an extended offshore section in there, and hopefully we'll be able to tell a little bit more what is happening at this
On
very moment.
48 meters shortwave band, your darling Britain Radio. Britain Radio International.
Only today, 6230 kilohertz, and we'll be getting back to the one-second show, which is the final part of the oldest chart, and we'll have started about 11:30 today. But now we're going to play a recording of some of the British TV news items which went out this week.
The pirate station Radio Caroline. Radio Caroline says the raid's illegal as the boat's in international waters. Spokesman for the Caroline movement, Keith Archer, followed events closely.
A tug pulled alongside the Ross Revenge and boarded. Some Dutch people were mishandling some of the staff. And at about 10 to 1 this afternoon,
dismantling their broadcast equipment, but intended no harm to the people on board.
From the ship and take a few other things as well. What they have just told us is that we are free to go back to Holland with them, where there will be no more charges pressed. We will also be able to go back to England, and there will be no charges pressed there. Alternatively, we can stay on the Ross Revenge.
They would then take
taken off the air, and it's understood the crew have been taken to Holland. The Department of Trade and Industry have been trailing the ship for several weeks and supported today's operation. They say the Dutch officials are exercising international law in international waters to prevent illegal broadcast. Radio Caroline celebrated its 25th anniversary at Easter this year and has broadcast for most of that time off the Clacton coast.
The pirate radio station and removed its transmitter. A number of European broadcasters and some emergency services have complained that radio using unauthorized frequencies which interfere with their transmissions. In London, a Department of Trade and Industry spokesman said they support it.
The Dutch officials who closed it down yesterday of international piracy. The 25-year-old radio station, which used to be moored off the Essex coast, was silenced after complaints that its transmission was
Jockey told Caroline's listeners that the men were dismantling their broadcast equipment but intended no harm to the people on board. But today, station manager Peter Moore painted a different picture.
Close to the ship. She was boarded. Our captain resisted this attempt and was threatened by that crew member carrying a sidearm. Is that a sidearm? Yeah, a pistol. Apparently most of the Dutch crew were armed with pistols. The captain of our ship said, after trying to force this crew member back onto his own boat, surely you don't intend to shoot me when the man made me go for his gun. So the crew member said, with his lip open, and then about 25 to 30 Dutchmen boarded the ship.
At 8 o'clock last night, the Ross Revenge were taken aboard by the skipper. Dutch and DTI officials were still on the ship, but according to Australian Warren Anderson, the boarding party withdrew when they were told they were blown up.
Every studio on the ship has been completely stripped of every piece of equipment. Anything they couldn't unbolt easily, they tore physically off the wall out of the
The owners of the pirate station Radio Caroline have accused the Dutch officials who closed it down yesterday of international piracy. The radio station, which used to be moored off the Essex coast, was silenced after complaints that transmissions interfered with radio frequencies. Owen Spencer Thomas reports.
Dutch officials boarded the Ross Revenge at lunchtime yesterday. A disc jockey told Caroline's listeners that the men were dismantling their broadcast equipment but intended no harm to the people on board. But today, station manager Peter Moore painted a different picture.
Most of that crew were armed with pistols. The captain of our ship said, after trying to force the crew member back onto his own boat, surely you don't intend to shoot me when the man made me go for his gun. So this crew member, the Dutch crew member, instead struck our captain in the face and split his lip open.
At 8 o'clock last night, 4 journalists drew alongside the Ross Revenge and were taken aboard by the skipper. Dutch and DTI officials were still on the ship, but according to Australian Warren Anderson,
every studio on the ship has been completely stripped of every piece of equipment. Anything they couldn't unbolt easily, they tore physically off the walls, out of the benches. And down in the transmitter room, the transmitters have all been forcibly opened up. They couldn't actually take out of the transmitters and safely get onto the large Dutch tender.
Good evening. The Canadian owners of pirate pop station Radio Caroline have threatened to take legal action tomorrow over its shutdown. On Saturday, Dutch officials silenced the 25-year-old radio station, which used to be moored off the Essex coast.
Officers boarded the pirate ship Ross Revenge at lunchtime on Saturday. Officials from the Department of Trade and Industry remained alongside on board. So the men were dismantling their broadcast equipment, but intended no harm to the people on board.
As it stands, the gentlemen are going to remove the transmitter from the ship and take a few other things as well.
But according to the Canadian owners of Radio Caroline, the boarding party was armed with pistols. They claim the Dutch party removed one transmitter and smashed the other two with sledgehammers. They say studio equipment was ripped out and all the wiring was severed with an axe.
Several players used to be here, and the mixing desk was here. Very kindly they left the nothing else. To have armed police, Coast Guard, Customs, whatever they were, running around on the vessel, and all we're doing out here is playing pop music. It's just beyond belief.
A statement issued on behalf of the Radio Caroline organisation said it would be bringing charges of piracy, assault and criminal damage for the raid against British and Dutch officials. Howard Rose, editor of industry journal Now Radio, which issued the statement today from Kettering, said the ship's Canadian directors would start legal moves tomorrow. The DTI say they've been trailing the ship for several weeks, but they deny the boarding party has silenced the pirate station's transmitters. 3 hours after the boarding, officials from a DTI surveillance ship later gained Britain on the Ross Revenge to accept passage to Ramsgate. 2 accepted, but the others decided to remain.
Okay, there we go then. That's one or two news recordings from British TV heard by us here at BRI over the past 7 days. Which may be interested to some of the people who may not have caught some of the news bulletins this week. Okay, just quickly now before we special Caroline 30 minutes, looking at some of the events over the past week. A news article which appeared in the BBC, which is a East Anglian paper, dated the 21st of August, which was Monday, of course. And the headlines read like this: "Pleas for help as pirate radio is silenced." Pirate radio station Radio Caroline was silenced off the east coast yesterday by Dutch officials acting with the approval of the Department of Trade and Industry. Strong boarding party dismantled transmitting equipment on the Ross Revenge, which was also broadcasting a continental station, Radio 819. Before Caroline was taken off the air, disc jockeys appealed to their listeners to phone their local media and publicise the station's latest plight. A radio control service section of the Dutch Ministry of Transport and Public Works said the station's broadcast had been interfering with emergency shipping frequencies. Complaints had been received from England, Belgium, France and Hungary last week. Police raided addresses in Belgium and Holland looking for information on the station's advertisers. The ship had been under surveillance for about a week, so they claim. After the boarding, some of the radio station staff were a little emotional, so they say, but after a few minutes they took it all like sportsmen. Howard Rose, editor of the Radio and Industry Journal, said staff told him the ship's chief engineer was severely beaten in the raid. They claim equipment had been smashed. The station's Canadian owners were considering legal action, which has now commenced the court. After the transmitting equipment had been silenced, Dutch crew members were arrested and taken back to Holland. British Radio Caroline staff opted to remain on board. 3 hours later, officers on board a British Department of Trade and Industry ship alongside the Ross Revenge tried to persuade the British citizens to return to Ramsgate for questioning with them. Of the 8 British crew members, only 2 accepted the offer to return to Ramsgate. Okay, so that was a news article which appeared on Monday, the 21st of August, in a East Anglian newspaper, which was the Other newspapers, which were national papers, covered the event, and no doubt, hopefully, Anorak UK's news file, which they send out every week, we'll see more appear as the weeks go on. Okay, just before we return to full programming, again, with the Roger Davis show, let's like to recap on the latest news we have in this particular part of the broadcast. Caroline, legal action started by the owners on Tuesday, the 22nd against the Dutch officials for criminal damage to piracy on board the ship, which was international. British official visitor, CTI official, was on board with the raid, Mr. Murphy, which has now been realised. Caroline went off the air at 1:10 last Saturday afternoon. CTI officials pulled the plug. As we said, radio will be featuring an extended with Steve West giving you the latest information. Just going back to those news items which we heard from the DJs speaking on there were Nigel Harris and Dave Ash, showing the journalists around the studio this equipment. Okay, right. In about 5 minutes back to the Roger Davis. Just must think about this for a moment. The last weekend's event. Well, it happened number 4, 1968, the ships were towed away, taken into Holland. It was back on the air. Of course, back in 1980, sank. 3 years off the air, and the Ross Revenge appeared in 1983 again. And now last weekend, the ship was silent, but we must just think about it that the ship is around. And to me, that is a big bonus point. And we just await now the legal action which is going ahead and see what the outcome is, and we just hope it doesn't drag on too long. Things get worse, but if it gets through the courts quickly, who knows? The DTI might even have to go back out to the Ross Revenge and put all that stuff back on and get the ship. They win the case. Wouldn't it be great? Okay, we'd just like to play a short recording which we have to remind us of how it was sounding when the ship Mi Amigo was sinking. And just remember, we could see Caroline back one day.
Which once belonged to a supertanker, snapped. The ship's engines were out of order, and it grounded. The Coast Guard decided to evacuate, and the rescue took place just after midnight. The crew, free from the Canary, were brought back to Sheerness.
Believe it or not, nobody panicked. Everybody worked very hard. There was a lot to be done, so there wasn't much time to actually panic. And it was when we came off of the sandbank and were hitting the bottom of the ship with the sandbank that were you broadcasting all the way through this? Yeah, sure.
You're listening to Radio File with
Ship Ross Revenge anchored off the coast. Full report coming up on that. Offshore news. A report on the London scene. An Adrian on the Home Secretary's down on 3 radio stations. And of course this month's big story is the raid by the Dutch authorities last week. On Saturday the 19th of 1308 British Summer Time, Caroline went off the air after announcing the ship had been boarded by the Dutch authorities. This raid was apparently been a few days previously, a vessel carrying Dutch officials and had threatened that if the station crew did not leave, stage 2 of an operation would be carried out. Radio 819 offices in Holland and a visit to the station's Spanish running. During the Dutch raids, about 20 people were arrested, and one person has taped, etc. Within hours of the raids, the DTI, on board their boat the Linwood, visited the Ross Revenge and asked to come aboard. Peter Chicago, who was acting captain at the time, refused, and instead talks were held with one crew member going on board the DTI boat, where he was told of the raids in Holland. Meanwhile, on air, the shortwave service had closed the previous day, and Radio 819 shut at midday Friday. However, the station returned again on the Saturday at 0400 hours. And now for the raid. Well, the raid itself began late Saturday morning when the motor vessel Valence, owned by the Dutch Ministry of Transport, drew alongside the Ross. This ship is the same one that went to the assistance of Amibo 2 following the firebomb attack on Radio North Sea International. Chicago, who was, as I said earlier, acting captain after time, papers. And when he refused them, the Ross was boarded by up to 40 men, some of whom were armed. The board was made for the 819 studio and the shortwave transmitter, while the on-air crew barricaded themselves into the Caroline studio and called for listeners to phone the media, Coast Guard and their MPs. At 13:08, the transmitters were switched off, and the raiders, described as being quite drunk, then proceeded to remove or smash all broadcast equipment on board. The station was essentially thrown out through the portholes, and the final records which were played on the station before the close down were in fact snapped out of the DJ's hand. All equipment that was removed was thrown into 2 containers on board the Volante. By the time the raid had finished, all transmitters and studios had been removed or wrecked. The 2 new insulators, which were due to be fitted, were smashed, and the DC generators apparently immobilized. The new aerial system, lying on the deck, was also taken. The ship's own generators was pointed out that leaving the ship without any power would endanger it and cause a hazard to other shipping in the area. The ship's captain, Andy Bradgate, and transmitter engineer Peter Chicago, who was beaten when he attempted to prevent the raiders getting to the transmitting equipment. It seems that the Dutch weren't the only authorities involved. France and Belgium also accompanied them on board. And the DPI were watching from their boats nearby. Shortly after the Dutch and remained until the Saturday night, questioning members of the crew. How much more might have happened if the media is uncertain, although it is thought that the Dutch might have changed and towed the ships to Holland, as they did with the Paradise ship out to Marine. While the raiders were and they left immediately without cut the anchor and tow the ship away. Anglia Television from the UK for the next day, and the results were shown on the local programme on Monday the 21st of August. The picture contradicting the claims of the Dutch that the whole thing was a friendly. And in Holland, the TV station reported to the ministry and revealed that things had got out of hand. Contact with their headquarters on shore. Managing to get most things. The early edition of the Sunday Times quoted a broadcast extract of the Dutch Ministry of Transport and Public Works, who owns the Volante, as saying there was no violence and that things were friendly, being carefully removed and not smashed. Besides the usual claims of interference to other frequencies, it was not flying any flags and had so forfeited the sea. So why the raid then? Surely the Dutch must have learned the lesson from the Paradise affair, so they couldn't just drag ships onto international waters. Well, there are a number of reasons. Firstly, the choice of shortwave frequency used by the ship. 6,000 615 kilohertz is used as a primary frequency and a secondary distress frequency. It was achieved or used for so long that the Caroline organisation must have known of its use. There was Radio North Sea International use of 10 kilohertz that also caused a lot of problems with the authorities back in the 1970s. Apparently the French authorities wrote to the radio, the users of the frequency, asked them to change the user, and when there was no reply, attempted to charge capturing the ruling with offences under the French Marine Offences Act, as he was the only person connected with the organisation. Both French and government, the Dutch PTT and the BTI, to do something about the broadcast. The second reason for the raid was the power on Radio 819, which was worrying the Dutch authorities. And the now communicator horribly the third reason, and the most important, started. The fact that the ship is unregistered and government control and stayed into port. Law. The situation should have come about is not known. However, Ronan Arundel would go through the necessary papers. It is known that the ship might not have passed inspection due to the condition of the hull and safety. Anyway then, Caroline was expected to get away. Usual position, minus making it small. Cleaning up on board the ship is progressing, and the damages have not destroyed its first fall. Generators can be repaired. The started of broadcasting in the next fortnight, but this is not thought likely due to the possibility of another raid.
The cargo is still on board, in good spirits and busy working hard out to get a signal out on 558 kilohertz, which should around the radio dials in the coming couple of weeks. Radio Caroline probably will be back on 558 kilohertz.
On Friday, there's going to be quite a few stations running evening broadcasts on shortwave. Stations include Weekend Music Radio, Britain Radio, and others. Other shortwave news, Radio Electra has been active on a weekly basis recently on 6,306 kilohertz. Although they don't seem to be producing a very good signal. No mailing address has been announced, although one is promised later. Radio Atlantis Shortwave made their first broadcast in several months on Sunday the 6th of August on 6,202 kilohertz and announced an output of 100 watts. The schedule will hope to be in again before Christmas, and we will see announcing October. WFRL 163 Radio London. Radio Confusion International plans a nighttime programme tonight, Sunday the 27th of August at 2000 hours UTC. 6,300, 6308 or 6317 kilohertz. The station is hoping to produce a regular nighttime service, and BRI intend to follow at 2100 UTC on one of their 48-metre band channels. RFM Shortwave to be heard celebrating 3 years of FM broadcasting on Sunday the 13th of August. 3 frequencies were used in parallel: 6317 kHz shortwave, 1611 kHz medium wave, and 92.15 MHz FM. great show, packed full of information today on Britain Radio International on our fourth Sunday schedule. Coming up in a moment, we'll be James. You're listening to the summer sound of Britain Radio International, broadcasting to Europe on 48 meters shortwave.
And the recent return of London Weekend Radio, LWR. Started creating problems for stations occupying the 92.05 megahertz